Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Morhonda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway, here on this Monday, January 16th. Made it halfway through the month. Appreciate you. Happy Martin Luther King Day as well. Back with us, as you can see, Dustin Schutte, back from his assignment. On the program today, we'll have Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us as well, and Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Lots to talk about. Indiana getting back on the winning side of things with a huge win over Wisconsin. Women's team doing the same thing as they stay on the winning side with another win there. The Grizzlies were in town to play the Pacers, and they had a ton of Indiana guys on it. Talk about that. David Jackson, Indiana has its latest quarterback. They have solved the quarterback. Well, I won't say solved their quarterback issues, but they certainly have the recruit to make things a lot better there. Flory Badunga, how about a 32 field goal streak? So lots to talk about. Lots getting going here on this Monday. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. And welcome back, Dustin Schutte.
It's good to be back. I'm not sure if the audience is either excited or dreading it that I'm back now.
I won't answer for them. How's that?
That's fair enough. But what an awesome weekend. Indiana got back on the winning side. You get a big time quarterback recruit, and the women continue to win. So pretty good overall weekend for Indiana athletics. Although I'm interested. When we do talk to Don Fischer, if he thought he was calling a baseball game for like the first 10 minutes of that game on Saturday.
Taven Jackson committing to Indiana from Tennessee, former Center Grove product, obviously the brother of Trace Jackson Davis. That is a big commitment for Indiana, especially right now, the position that it fills. They had been doing decent in the portal, especially on the defensive side, filling things. Which I'll be honest with you, I was surprised at some of the game names and guys they've been able to pull from that. And then now you add a quarterback like this of nominal stature that was recruit in the recruiting world. This is going to continue to draw buzz for Indiana, and I think that this is going to help them continue in the transfer portal.
Well, I think so too. When you're able to attract big-time players from the transfer portal, and this isn't necessarily new to Indiana. They've been able to attract some big-time guys, but the key for Tom Allen and his entire staff is to kind of piecemeal together an offensive line through the transfer portal, because I don't care who's at quarterback. We saw Michael Penix did some good things at Indiana, struggled to stay healthy. Then he goes to Washington and lights it up under Kalen DeBoer. Connor Bazelak played pretty well when he was at Missouri, showed some potential, but because he didn't have a good offensive line, struggled to stay healthy. So Indiana got a good quarterback. They have now some depth there at that position, or improved depth, I'll say. They've got some improved depth there, and you've got a quarterback who, could be the next big guy for you. But it doesn't matter much if your offensive line continues to play poorly and Indiana doesn't get a run game. So they've got to continue to add pieces on the offensive line. They've got to address that issue, because it doesn't. You could have Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes under there. If you don't got a good offensive line, you're not going to get very far.
Well, and some of the running backs that they do have that are good. Rob Henderson, for example. Hopefully, this may help some of those guys to stick around, so they don't have to go out and refill that room as well. But I agree with you. Having an offensive line is paramount But I think that is something that Indiana is working on as well. You've got a new offensive line coach. They've made strides there, and we saw them improve at the end of the year. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think they showed some flashes, and if you have a little bit, what we learned was Connor Bazelak isn't really the most mobile quarterback. The same thing with Michael Penix. They did some good things with Dexter Williams, so you probably have to change the offense at least a little bit because you're never going to have an offensive line that's going to be able to compete with the defensive lines of like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. So you've got to come to terms with that, but you should be able to match up with teams like Maryland, Rutgers, even Michigan State to an extent, Purdue. So if you're able to find some pieces, I don't want to say frequently win at the line of scrimmage, but if you're able to show some improvement on the line of scrimmage, do some unique things offensively, then it gives you a much better chance. And then maybe again, we're talking about this team potentially being bowl eligible again in 2023. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I agree with you that they are making some strides on the offensive line. They're going to make some changes. It's one of those things where it's been a consistent problem under Tom Allen. So to me, I'll believe it when I see it. So we got a long way to go, but there is some good news. Getting Taven Jackson is a huge deal for Indiana. As you said, that might lead to getting other players out of the transfer portal. Because remember, this is just round one. After spring ball, there's going to be a lot of names going into that transfer portal once again.
We'll certainly find out. Ross pointing out Alabama basketball had a bad weekend. Who did they lose to? I missed out on that.
He is actually referring to one of their players being caught for, I don't know what the proper term for this is, but one of their players was arrested for potential capital murder charges is what he is referring to.
Holy crap. Yeah, I didn't see that. That's not good.
Dustin, his name was his name Darius? I don't know his last name, but it was a current player, I believe.
Yeah, it is a current player. Hold on. I don't want to.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It's just that's not good.
No,
it's
good
Alabama basketball player Darius Miles among two suspects arrested on capital murder charges.
Yeah.
Not good at all. Appreciate everybody hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Fred Havlin, the East and the Safford. Kevin, jumping on from down in the southern Indiana, Jeffersonville. Kenneth, Fred, make sure I made it. Andy. Andy went to the game in Bloomington for his birthday. It was a great performance. He thought they seemed relaxed and fired up, even after early offensive struggle. Much better on defense. Talking about the basketball win this weekend. Michael, the Music Man, we appreciate you, sir. Philip, how are you, sir? Appreciate you. And hope everyone's having a great day as we're getting things started. Like I said, Don Fischer on the program today. Looking forward to that. As well as Dustin Dopirak set to join us as well. Indiana does get back. They certainly looked good on the basketball court yesterday. And Jordan Geronimo was a big reason. Now, of course, you cannot ignore Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino providing their normal performances. Big days for both of them. Double-doubles, though, for Trace Jackson Davis and Jordan Geronimo. Geronimo with, 12 and 11?
Yep.
Just a nice, solid performance, responding to being challenged by Woody, which – great. I don't know why it's taking this long to challenge guys, but regardless of the fact, that is what Indiana's going to have to do. They're going to have to play like this game in, game out. And it's it probably won't always result in a win, but this is the style of play they're going to have to give. I mean, they did look good. They looked comfortable. They looked relaxed. They looked intent on what they were doing. They definitely looked much better defensively. The effort was there. They gave the effort. So it was all positive on that side. They did the things that they needed to do and played really well and played hard throughout the game.
Well, I think that one of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago was I think that even in losses, Indiana fans they respect the team. They love watching a team that goes out and plays hard. Or whether that's a win or a loss. And obviously it's a little more frustrating if you lose. But I think that what you saw on Saturday, if Indiana does that every time, this is going to be a much more happy fan base because they saw that the effort they were putting in. And by the way, I think that this serves too as a message to Indiana because through the early portion of that game, I mean, especially in the first half, I don't need to tell anybody that they struggled to shoot the basketball, but they played so well defensively throughout the course of that game where if they are able to replicate that performance, and it's going to be tough through a 20-game Big Ten schedule, there's no doubt about it, so you're not going to be able to do it every game, but if they do that a lot of times, that's where your defense can win games, even if you're not shooting well. So that to me is a learning experience. You got the win, a big win against a team that you have struggled against quite a bit in the past. So that's a huge win. Don't undermine the significance of this victory for Indiana. And then I'm curious to see. I hope that this is. I don't know if a wake-up call is the right thing, but maybe create some momentum, generate some momentum that hey, if we get after it defensively, we play this way, we're going to be in every basketball game. I mean, if you can defend as well as they did against Wisconsin, they're going to be in a lot of basketball games, and they're going to have a lot of chances to win those games, even if they're not shooting the ball well.
Well, after giving up 80, 90 points, they hold Wisconsin to 40, was it 43?
45.
45. 45 points. I mean,
yeah, outstanding.
They gave up more than that in halves.
Right, yeah, exactly they have. That was – did Indiana outscore Wisconsin's point total in the no, they were close. Indiana scored 42 points in that second half, and Wisconsin scored 45 for the game. That's pretty good.
It's very impressive. Yeah. Now, but they have to do this game in, game out. That's the exact type of effort. That's not what we had seen here of late, but hey, they displayed that against Wisconsin, and that's what they're going to have to do. Now they're going to have to do that on the road. We'll talk to Don Fischer about that and Dustin as well. Let's see, where are we? Make sure we're not over time. But and then the IU women, they continue to roll on. Record crowd. That was awesome. Record crowd ever for the regular season for them. Over 10,000 people went to that game. I was at the Maryland game, which was a bigger game, and that drew around 7,000, I'd say. But wow, 10,000. I'm glad I wasn't there because that would have been hell getting in and out of. But congratulations to them on a nice Sunday afternoon drawing that crowd.
That was awesome to see. I mean, they came out in full support. And I think I think it was from the women's game too, that band member that went viral, like the guy doing the saxophone. I feel like that was from the women's game where he was just busting out. I don't even know what the tune was. I just saw it. I didn't listen to it. Do you know, John, was that from the women's game?
Oh, no. I was just coming in. I didn't know what happened to Jim. I was ready to.
What was the question?
Well, I was going to ask, did you see that? I didn't know if that viral band member who was like going to town on the saxophone, like just living it up, if that was from the women's game.
I missed that.
It went viral on Twitter. I didn't listen to it. I just saw it. I just saw the video. It was pretty cool.
From an IU band member?
Yeah. I think it was during the women's game, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was or not.
I did not see that.
Well, there you go. It was just – but what my point was, it was a very energetic crowd, and that's awesome to see both on the men's and women's side.
Did you get a chance to watch it? Not that we have time to talk about it now, but just to bring it up, NFL, we'll talk about the NFL a little bit later on because the NFL playoffs got underway yesterday. So a myriad of games, and then there's a game tonight, right?
Yeah, Cowboys.
New England.
Cowboys.
New England. Tampa Bay and Dallas, right?
Dallas. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
That's what I thought. We'll talk about that.
Jennifer just told me that band member was from the men's game. My bad. Messed it up.
He must have been having quite a time.
He was. I'll see if I can find it.
Well, good for him. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on the program. Like I said, Don Fischer will join us talk about all things that happened this weekend. Plenty more as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality and the WOW Club. Make sure you go to mywownetwork.com and sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards today. The great places like BB's and Southern Stone and Goteen in and around the Bloomington area. Tonight, Don Fischer, you can catch him and Mike Woodson at Southern Stone Restaurant. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
John, is my sound that bad?
So anytime you're on your phone, this is what it sounds like. They're just, for some reason, I've never seen people comment about it before until today. So I don't know why it doesn't sound any different to me. I mean, it's obviously not the same as your regular equipment, but you don't sound any different than when you've been on your phone in the past, if that makes sense.
All right. Just want to make sure it wasn't bad.
Good morning, Don.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Great. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Why is my usually I can see myself with you guys, but I don't see myself.
Your camera.
We don't see your
off
camera.
on
Your
end.
camera may be off.
How does I oh, you know what? Maybe.
No,
Or
he disconnected himself. He's checking something, I'm sure.
It's a technologically challenging day.
Yeah, things happen. Yeah, now that we're in a break, those of you listening, if you can't tell, Jim is not using his regular equipment this morning. It's why he doesn't sound why he normally does.
Yes. This microphone is no good today.
Here we go. Send it to you. Both
What is
of you.
it? The band member?
Yeah.
The band member.
The band.
We'll revisit that later.
Da-da-da.
You never know.
Oh, man.
What do we got here? Let's see if all right, Don, are you back?
Can
with
you
us?
guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
You can hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you now.
Well, that's a predicament,
I
isn't
don't
it?
know what's going on here.
See, I can't see what he's doing, so I can't really give him any advice.
I've got it unmuted. Gosh dang it.
Sounds, there's a, well, he just left.
Well, he couldn't hear us anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's all right. We'll figure it out. I didn't know he was going to be joining us from a different, position.
You didn't know
today.
what?
Didn't know he was going to be joining us from a different location because he's clearly not in his normal spot today.
I
Oh.
was going to say his sound was amazing
Yeah, it sounded like he was
on the
in a
broadcast.
studio booth or something.
He might be.
Well, I was going
Yeah,
to
we're
ask
supposed
you if
to-
I should take these headphones out and make it sound better.
I mean, I don't know. We're about to come back. I mean, what do you want to do here, Jim? You want me to just come back like normal? Well,
This
Well,
segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the golf
the
club at Eagle
telephone.
Point Studios for more Indiana sports.
I got you,
Radio
Don. Pull me
up on a
with Jim
telephone.
Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
we'll just stop for a second. We're good. What do you say, Don?
He can't hear you.
Can
Did
you
you-
give him a call, Jim, or give me his phone number? He says something about a phone call.
You don't have his phone number?
No. And either way, it's not going to work because we don't have the
Testing.
phone
1,
lines
2,
set up.
3, 4. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We can hear you.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Call me on the telephone. 317-882-4848. See if that'll work.
317-882. Say that again. The last four.
4848.
4848. Jim, this isn't going to work the way that it used to. We don't have this set up unless you want to call them yourself, Jim.
Will it come over? I don't know if it comes over.
If you have them on speaker, that's the only way it'll work. And I can't do it for mine because he won't have the headset.
All right, hold on. So.
Oh, we got. Do you have us now, Don?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear us?
But I can't hear you guys. I don't know why.
Let me check on my end here.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
We hear. There must be just a. I bet. Is your headphones? Is there anything different with your headphones, Don?
He still can't hear you.
I just don't know what to.
I don't know what I don't have plugged in here. That's not it. Test 1, 2.
We hear you.
I don't know what the problem is here, guys. I can't tell you. I mean, you may be able to hear me, but I can't hear you at all.
Okay. Jim, will you? No, Jim's not even on here.
Jeez.
Everything's just.
I can't do everything on the screen, John.
I'm going to leave the studio.
Okay,
I'm going to come back.
I got you. I just didn't think you were with us, Jim. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday, everyone. We're just going to roll through this and figure it out as we go. We appreciate you all sticking with us. And we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming here at some point. Let's see. Don's coming back one more time.
Hello.
Fischer, you got us?
Hello.
I got you now.
All right. Jim, are you with us? He was checking something on his phone. Now that we've Jim, are you ready to roll? Are you good now?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's reset this segment. I'm going to start from the top of this, and we'll be good. So I'm going to start with the music.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Monday. It's January 16th. We've made it halfway through. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Joined by the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, Don Fischer. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm better now that you can hear me and see me. Well, for whatever reason, we were having a problem there for a while, but obviously I just shut everything down and just left the studio and came back on, and all of a sudden everything's working. So I don't know what was going on there.
Isn't it amazing how that always fixes things? It makes no sense, but just shut it down and it works.
Well, trust me, I know this, that I'm a technological illiterate. Therefore, how we fixed it, I have no idea. I don't care.
Well, you're amongst a group of like-minded individuals, I assure you, in that category. Great weekend for Indiana basketball, men's and women's both getting big wins over Wisconsin, especially on the men's side. It was great to see because of how they did it. They came out, they played with the grit that we have not seen. They played with the determination that we have not seen, with just complete. You could tell everything that they were doing. There was intentions, and defensively, it was just a different looking team. We heard that Jordan Geronimo responded to being challenged by Mike Woodson. It looked like the whole team had been challenged by Mike Woodson because they looked like we had been talking about that they hadn't been playing so long.
Yeah, there's no question. The intensity level that they played with in this game was huge. We haven't seen that for a while. Obviously, we did in the Iowa ball game, the first half. I honestly think something happened when Race Thompson went out of this ball game against Iowa. that this team kind of lost its mojo for whatever reason. They haven't played that well like they did in the first half of that ball game since, although I would argue that the second half of the Wisconsin ball game was maybe the stop mark as far as that is concerned, because they did play very well against Wisconsin, especially in the second half. And they fought through a first half where nobody could make shots. I mean, neither team. Thank goodness Wisconsin wasn't making shots, because Indiana's defense was pretty good again. And that had something to do with Wisconsin's performance. But they didn't knock down shots either. They got some open looks and they didn't make them. And next thing you know, it's a battle of wills at that point. And Indiana, and generally speaking, I wouldn't say this, but Indiana outfought them in this ball game. And they did that back against North Carolina. They did it against Xavier, against the tougher teams that they played this year. And so many of these ball games, I would argue that even, against Arizona, they played pretty well to get back in that ball game. But they have not done it consistently. And that's the problem with this ball club. And the fact that they're 2-4 now in Big Ten play, maybe that's jump-started them a little bit and saying, look, we were expected to win the Big Ten, or at least people were saying we were going to challenge for a Big Ten championship. I've never said that. And I say that because I haven't. I literally said, you're going to make a jump from 9th place in the last 6 years. The best you've done is 9th place, and you're going to make a jump to win a Big Ten title. And you've got a lot of the same people. I just couldn't, I can't wrap my hands around that unless they can prove it. And honestly, this team right now has been not very good here in the last few weeks. And they've got to get better, especially against everybody they're going to play in the Big Ten, because there's nobody in this league that can't beat you.
Don,
Robbie Hummel said that they looked shell-shocked to go along with what you were saying, Dustin. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask Don if for the first half of that game you felt like you were broadcasting a baseball game or how that felt. But to me, the thing that I think might be a positive, and you hope to carry some of this momentum going forward, is this team, which had given up 80 points, and it felt like the last 15 games, which I know is not true, but had struggled defensively. They did not shoot the ball well in the first half, but their defense got it done. You hope that in that situation, there can be that moment where you have that realization that, hey, even if we're not scoring, even if we're struggling to shoot, if we play defense the way we did against Wisconsin, we're going to be in a lot of basketball games. We're going to have a lot of opportunities to win.
Well, in my opinion, that's where look, why were they so much better last year than they were the previous year? Because they played defense. It was a different defensive system. They played hard at the defensive end of the floor. Woodson emphasized that going into the season and maintained that emphasis throughout the year. This year, I think they went into this season trying to become better offensively than they were a year ago, and I think that's where the emphasis was. But they never stopped talking about how hard you have to play at the defensive end of the floor. But for whatever reason, this team started to slide defensively. And honestly, there's no excuse not to play hard at the defensive end of the court. It is simply playing hard. Play with intensity. Go out there and show them that you're going to dictate how this game is going to be played. And if you do that, you will set the tone, and people will understand that you're going to have to overcome whatever Indiana's doing out there on the floor with that intensity level. And honestly, this team hasn't played like that for a long time.
And I think that they have a chance to – I don't want to compare them to another Big Ten team, but I think we can say that Indiana's shooting hasn't been quite there throughout the court, or consistently maybe, but there's no reason they can't, to me, be a Rutgers. I mean, you look at a Rutgers – that's a team that fights defensively game in, game out. And they are in a lot of games, and a lot of people consider them to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten right now because of that. They have terrible shooting nights, but they'll beat you 50-48 if they have to. Right. I feel like if Indiana gets in that mindset, they can, as you said, Don, they can – maybe they're not going to win the Big Ten, but they can catapult and get into the top 5, rattle off some wins and beat some big-time teams, get a little bit of that confidence and momentum back.
Right, and that's going to be the key going forward, because they put themselves in a hole right now. They have already lost 4 games. I mean, one more loss, and they right now it looks like this league is so tough, like it was a year ago. You're going to have more than one team in first place at the end of the season. They're probably going to have at least 5 losses. That's what it was last year. So this team is right there. They're still in the hunt, but now they put themselves in a hole that they're going to have to really play well every time they walk out on the court. And I don't know if this team can do that because they haven't proven that up to this point. They've got the tools to do it. They are better offensively than they were a year ago. There is no question about that. They have more people that can make threes this year than they had a year ago. I mean, Galloway is perfectly capable of it. Tamar Bates is perfectly capable of it. Miller, we know, can shoot it if he ever does. Shoot it, Miller. He just doesn't shoot enough, in my opinion. And there are others. But the point of the matter is, defense travels because it's all about work ethic, playing at an intensity level that is demonstratively better than what the other team is doing. You've got to be able to do that defensively. That's where the key of this team is. It showed it last year when they played good defensively, they beat people. If this team does the same thing, they will beat even more people. So that to me is the whole key to this basketball team, but it's all up here. It's between the ears, and they've got to get over the fact that they don't have 2 of their best players on the team performing right now, and hopefully they will get back sometime this year yet, and hopefully it's early February rather than late February. But at the same time, let's face it, this team is talented enough. They can get the job done. But they've got to have a different mindset than anything we've seen up to this point, with the exception of this Wisconsin game.
Yeah, Trace Jackson-Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino continually to play well for this team as they did this past game. And one of the things I've said, that game in and game out, it's going to have to either be Tamar Bates, Trey Galloway, or Jordan Geronimo. Somebody has to step up every game to help these guys for this team to win. This past game, it was Jordan Geronimo having an outstanding game, a double-double, no less, with 12 and 11, 12 and 11 to join Trace Jackson-Davis. And when you have that kind of impact, which is the kind of impact that they have been hoping for Jordan, but that is also something that's going to help bolster this team. And it may not be Jordan the next game. It could be Trey Galloway hitting 3-point shots that much needed, or whomever. But somebody has to step up and help this duo each game, I think.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. And you can't – it's not a 2-man game. It's a 5-man game. Somebody else has to step up and play, especially from an offensive perspective. But defensively, they've all got to be on the same page. That's where this team is going to be successful if they give that intensity level. And it's truly important to start a ball game with that intensity level every time you walk out on the floor. And to win on the road, this team has not proven that they're very good at that at this juncture. They're going to have to prove it, and this game on Thursday night will be a critical one in that regard.
Well, it feels like, Don, that they might even – you can take some confidence away from this game winning at home, and then you go on the road. I don't want to say that this is a must-win game for Indiana. I don't know how else to phrase this, though, but Illinois is a team that's gone through some struggles. They had Sky Clark leave the program. They were another team that, as we talked about, they were predicted to be at the top of the Big Ten, and they're really struggling right now. So I feel like if you can go into Champaign, which is never an easy place to play, and get that win, you've got a tough home game against Michigan State, and then Minnesota on the road. I just feel like maybe this Wisconsin game can be that turning point, and I feel like we might see which direction this team's going to go one way or another in that Illinois game.
Well, I hope that's the case. Illinois has played much better the last 3 ball games. They have won all 3. They beat Wisconsin, the same team Indiana just beat, at home. They beat Nebraska on the road, and they beat Michigan State at home. Those are 3 big wins for them, and I think they've regain that confidence that they showed early on this season, because they played some pretty good basketball earlier this year. That said, they're still a team that is trying to find itself to some degree because of all the new faces they've got. 2 transfers from Texas Tech, or from Baylor rather, and one from Texas Tech. Those 3 guys are all starting on this ball club. So they are still trying to find their way, and Brad Underwood's trying to put the pieces together. And just like everybody else, they go through rough spots now and then. Now they're on an uptick, and you're going to have to take that confidence level away from them, and you have to do it at their place. So this is another huge challenge for this IU basketball team. And that's the one thing we haven't seen from IU at this juncture. Can they carry over what they do at home to the road? And that'll be the difference.
And now seeing who's going to be that guy, that next guy up to step up for this team, Don, but we'll certainly find out. And it's an excellent opportunity for Indiana to go on the road and catch a Big Ten team kind of maybe not at their best and get a win, because they certainly need that road win. Up next for you, of course, is Southern Stone tonight with Mike Woodson, of course, right, at 7:05?
Actually, it's tomorrow night because of Martin Luther King Day. So the holiday is being celebrated today. Thus, we'll move the show to tomorrow night. And Mike will be with us tomorrow evening. So we're looking forward to that. And actually, a Monday night I haven't had off for some time now. So I'm really excited.
I see. I'm glad we asked. We would not have known that. Didn't think about that. So tomorrow night, Inside Indiana Basketball with Mike Woodson and Don Fischer at 7:05 at Southern Stone Restaurant. Don, I cannot thank you enough, my brother. I look forward. We'll probably see you tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. See ya.
The great Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Southern Stone Restaurant, where you can find him and Coach Mike Woodson tomorrow night at 7:05. Normally it's on Mondays, but tomorrow because of the holiday for Inside Indiana Basketball. We're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a deal.
All right. Good morning, Dustin Dopirak.
Good morning, John and Dustin and Jim. How are you guys? Hello.
Wow, do you know they have Final Four sites out through 2030?
What?
I did not realize they had Final Four sites out through 2030.
I didn't know that either.
True? That's a lot.
Nope.
This year it is at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona.
Oh, boy.
And then next year back to the Alamo Dome.
There's a lot of them that are in Indy between now and then too. If I've seen what you're talking about, because I do.
Lucas Oil gets it twice.
Yeah.
2026 and 2029.
Are you in Milwaukee, Dustin?
I am in Milwaukee. Yes,
Nice.
This is a hotel room. I promise.
I appreciate you making me feel like an idiot.
Sorry, it was teed up. I mean,
Yeah, it was. I wasn't on the show for a week. I got to get back into rhythm here, and I work till midnight every day, so I'm making the adjustment.
Too?
Yes, grown men crying. It's not the worst. It's not the worst thing in the world, but when you make that shift from the first morning shift to the night shift, oh god,
that does. Yeah, it's like swing shift. What you're doing.
It is.
Either y'all ever had, or I guess either of you three ever had tonsil stones?
No.
Tonsil stones.
I've never even heard of that.
I haven't either.
Well, it's not. It doesn't sound as bad as it actually is. But if you ever look back in your throat and see some what looks like little white, I don't want to call them pebbles, inside of your tonsils, that's what they are. And
I thought that was strep.
It's hard to swallow.
I thought that was strep throat.
Well, I think it can lead to strep, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
how did we get on this?
I think I know what you're talking about. It's like little dots, but these are like little attachments, or it's different. If that makes any sense.
Attachments.
How did we get on this topic?
He just started talking about it.
I just brought it up because every time I swallow my coffee, it feels weird. And the reason I even mentioned it is because I looked in the mirror the other day and
at least you have coffee.
Yeah, that's true. At least I have coffee.
Does Jim not have coffee? What?
I guess not. He doesn't have internet either. That's why he's on his phone doing the show.
No.
All right, here we go.
Variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Beast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Monday, January 16th. Hope everyone's having a good day. Some of you are off enjoying Martin Luther King Day. We have to work. But welcome in, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim. How are you?
Good. See you're traveling as well.
I am, yes. The Pacers are playing on Martin Luther King Day, 2:30 tip, 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 here.
Oh, wow. Early game.
5-serve for them. They're going to be dealing with Giannis. So that's a great holiday treat for them. So looking forward to that. Should be a cool game. Obviously, they're remain a little bit shorthanded. Tyrese Halliburton's still going to be out. They don't know, or we don't know, whether Miles Turner is going to be available or not. He's dealing with back spasms. So it's been a tough deal for them since they lost Tyrese. They lost a couple in a row. Got beat pretty bad by Memphis on Saturday when I saw the best dunk I've ever seen in my whole life, and I don't know that I'll ever get over it. Dear Lord, Ja Morant. That was just totally insane. But yeah, so they're still, just trying to recover without Tyrese, trying to get some kind of trying to get their heads right. But on a side piece note, that's the best dunk I've ever seen in a game. That was incredible. I definitely ever live, maybe one of the best I've ever seen, even watching TV. That was nuts. That was stupid. That was incredible. Just totally crazy.
Well, I missed that dunk, man.
You have to have seen it someplace. It is as viral as viral is.
Yes, it is. If you just type it in, you'll find it.
Yeah, just type in Ja Morant dunk and that'll do it. Yeah, it was totally insane.
And what was funny was I believe after the game, wasn't he asked if he prefers to dunk over somebody, and he said something along the lines like, "I don't care if he wasn't there, I would have just dunked it harder," or something ridiculous like that.
No, the whole thing, because I mean it was wild too. Because we, obviously we're always gonna, I say we, I just really mean Tony East from the Sports Illustrated site, and I just we always, we're not gonna go to Memphis first, obviously, because the Pacers obviously going to be a storyline. So we did press conferences and we went in the locker room. We talked to Jalen Smith. I felt a little bit bad asking Jalen Smith about it, but I was hoping he was just going to be okay with it. And he was okay with it. He was good, but he was just like, yeah, I got dunked on, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but that was nuts, right? Like what you saw, and Jalen did everything right. It's a better dunk because Jalen Smith did a good job of getting in position, getting vertical, getting high. There is nothing Jalen Smith does wrong trying to block that dunk. And Ja somehow gets around him. And around him, over him, all of the above. I mean, that was just wild what Ja did. But after that, we get to talk to we go into the Memphis locker room, and he's just sitting there in a towel. We don't know anything. So we're just like, hey, Ja, could you talk about that dunk? He's like, well, I'm going to do media. I'm going to go on the podium in a minute. So we go talk to him there. And I think that one of the Grizzlies beat writers asked him, is that the best ever? He goes, yes. Yes, definitely. And it was a lot, there was short answers, but he was legitimately blown away by it too. He was like, that's the best dunk I've ever had. I've been waiting for a dunk like that. And he said, that it doesn't matter, I wouldn't have dunked it harder, but from a artistic, what did we just watch standpoint, it's miles better because there's a guy there. And I think a Pacers fan was kind of debating me on Twitter, not really, but saying I'm biased. I like the Aaron Nesmith dunk from a couple weeks ago. I thought that was a better dunk. I'm like, well, he's like, I'm really biased. It's not close. The Nesmith dunk was a special dunk, and it was more important in the game because it was a little bit. It was a time when the Pacers needed buckets. I mean, it might have broke a tie. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I mean, it was close. It was within a possession at that point. And so it mattered more. Memphis was kind of more in control of this game. But just because, I mean, he has like Smith gets out a couple feet in front of the bucket, so like Allen was still stuck underneath it. Like he wasn't moving very fast on the Neesmith dunk. And so, I mean, basically, sorry, hold on 1 second. I will turn off my ringer. But yeah, real quick, he just because Jalen Smith is in front of that, it's a more amazing dunk.
It was, Jim. You gotta see this because it was legitimately.
Man,
one
I
of the
used to
best
dunk
dunks
all
I've
the
ever
time.
seen.
What are you talking about?
On a 7-foot rim? 7-foot rim, or
it was 8.5. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, that'll work.
Well, I mean, what really makes it is he has it all the way back here.
Yeah,
it's
right.
the arm it's the arm cocking it back and then doing that was wild to me because I was just like, and that's hard. Like when you're like you throw your shoulder out doing that. I mean, it was nuts. And I'm just like he so he goes up, just like, oh my God, he's bringing that all the way back. Oh my God, he's going to actually put it over Jalen's head and it's going to go in. And it was like, and Gamebridge was just stunned. Like, I mean, it was just like, and nobody kind of knew what to do. You were like, okay, like you had to cheer for that. Like, that's
right.
insane.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And some people didn't. Some people were just like, it was just like everybody just went, whoa, at the same time. And like, that's a really weird sound in an arena, but it was like, whoa. Like, it's not cheering. It's just like, utter
amazement.
shock. I cannot believe I just watched that kind of thing. I mean, it was oof. It was great.
So these past 3 games, they've been shorthanded. They've been without Miles Turner. Tyrese went down in that game against the Knicks. They've had to bring up Isaiah Jackson. Toy with some new starting lineups. In 2 of those 3 games, though, they've had chances to win. They had chances at the end of the game to beat New York. They had chance to beat Atlanta at home. Obviously, the Memphis game wasn't really that close. So what are you seeing from the Pacers? How have they been able to stay in these games despite being shorthanded? Because I think this speaks to the depth of the team and just they can insert guys and really are they missing something? Yes. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I think they might have won those 2 games if Tyrese is healthy, if Miles Turner's healthy. But at the same time, they're still in every game, which when you don't have the floor general and your top big man, that usually is not a good sign.
Yeah, no, I mean, it speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to depth. It speaks to their belief. I mean, like, I think that's one core thing. And it's you hate always talking about intangibles because you really kind of feel like a cheerleader then. Right. But they really do they really believe in themselves. They really look around and they trust each other and they say, okay, we can do this, guys. Like, we're not going to walk in there and get our doors blown off. We are good players. So, like they believe in each other. They trust each other and they say, okay, like the next man up is going to be able to do something. Now they are exactly on the roster 11 deep in guys they really, really trust. And Jackson's on that list. I mean, he got sent down to Fort Wayne just because they needed to get him some minutes.
Sure.
It's not like Isaiah Jackson's not a G League player. Isaiah Jackson is good enough to be in the roster. Good enough to be in the rotation. It just so happens that they decided to play smaller and they have 2 bigs so they moved, obviously they really more demoted Jalen from starting power forward to backup center. And then that takes Isaiah's spot and that just moved Isaiah down. And Isaiah wasn't playing great, but he is who he is basically. I mean, he's not a guy with a very expanded game, but he's got just ton of athleticism, hops, everything. So he can rim protect, rebound, run the floor, dunk. He can do those things at as high a level as anybody you want to name. Just that piece is that's his game and he's good at it. And so that's why he jumped Jalen Smith. He's a better rim protector than Smith is. Smith obviously can shoot the ball a little bit better, got a little bit more touch, even around the rim, can be a little bit more of a versatile defender, but Jackson can just, Jackson had some crazy dunks in that game too that get forgotten because of what Morant did. But
is there
shots. Go ahead.
Not to interrupt, but is Rick Carlisle looking to keep that second unit intact as much as possible? Is that also why? Because I feel like Isaiah Jackson is more athletic, so he runs better with that first team. But at the same time, you don't want to mess up your rotations too much with 2 starters out. Is that Is that part of it too? I mean, I know Benedict Mathurin has gotten the start, and that toys with your bench a little bit. But
yeah,
has
no,
that played a
because
factor?
he hasn't been able to have a pure second unit in the last 2 games. They're obviously pretty well devoted to true 10-man rotations with here's your 5, here's your 5. And since Halliburton and Turner have been out, there has not been a pure second team. They haven't. There's not been a time on the floor where 5 guys who didn't start were on the floor together. So it's more of sort of a constant rotation, guys getting sort of smaller snippets, but ending up playing more minutes. I think everybody played at least 20 on Friday. It was something close to that. So so Mathurin's been on the floor to get a floor with Buddy Hield. So a couple other pieces there. I mean, for one, they still have 2 point guards, even with Halliburton out. Right. Andrew Nembhard's had some struggles. He's not been as good as he was the first time Halliburton went out, and he went, did really good against Portland, then went wowed against Golden State when he had 31 and 13 in that game. He's been struggling, but TJ McConnell, I think has played really well off the bench, playing point guard. Nembhard's done some good things, hasn't shot it well. But McConnell doesn't take a lot of shots. McConnell was don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes type guy. He's got to get within about 6-7 feet before he really feels comfortable doing it. But he also runs around in circles. Like his drive paths are like S curves. Wild to see him with the ball. But
it's a beautiful description.
Yeah, it's effective. I mean, TJ's amazing. But he's been really solid, really strong. I think in these games, done a really good job of leading the team when he's been out there. I think Mathurin and Hield have really built some chemistry together. I mean, those are 2 really, really good players. I mean, Buddy didn't have a good night on Saturday shooting the ball, but they were really good together at the end of the Knicks game and throughout the Hawks game. I thought Mathurin just gets downhill so hard. And he's not a point guard, but he is another guy that can really break down a defense because of what he can do on the dribble. I mean, I think got to give credit to Caitlin Cooper for this line. I thought this was great. I don't even know her, and I read her stuff, and it's amazing. But she said that Benedict drives like all of the bridges behind him are crumbling and burning, and I was like, that's exactly what it is. Like he literally looked like he gets downhill with the ball in his hand like he's running for his life, and he gets into people and finishes and draws fouls and everything. He's been terrific. So those 2 together, I think, have gone a long way. Jackson, I think, and Smith have both played really well. O'Shea Brissett, I think, has done a really good job. A lot of guys have done a good job stepping up, and they've kept it at a smaller lineup, a smaller overall rotation. I think they played 8 on Friday, and they played 9 on Saturday until they were getting dusted, and they threw James Johnson and Terry Taylor and those guys in. But yeah, that's a lot had to happen for those guys to keep it close, and a lot of it has just been hard work and guys stepping up and just doing better in their positions.
We got to take a quick break. Joined now by Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Also, lots going on in the NFL yesterday, man. The playoffs get underway. Let's talk about that. Indiana basketball gets back to their winning ways. Can they keep that as they head on the road coming up to Illinois? Lots more to get to. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty and Barbara Pop Real Estate Services, where if you're down there in Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott County areas, and you're looking for a home, nobody besides Barbara Pop Real Estate Services can get you in a home faster, quicker, and less expensive than they can. They've served those communities for 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com, or our friend Matt Lincoln. Matt, with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
This is like doing a show with being handcuffed.
What's the deal with your internet? Your internet's just out off your phone?
Well, I moved the studio to where I am. There was already internet service, but I already had internet service. I wanted my own because I'm like, I have, the top end I need. And I kept telling them, y'all need to cancel that. And they finally did. Well, the internet provider canceled all service coming in to here. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, with it being a holiday,
oh no,
from Friday until Tuesday, nobody. Yeah. I'm like, were you kidding me? You're a provider and you shut down for 5 days? I'm like, that's not possible.
That's brutal.
It is horrible,
man.
Oh, and it gets worse.
Mm-hmm.
I let when it was cold. I was not here, but I lent my car to a friend, and the door handle to get in broke. Well, I've twice been locked out of my car now because of that, and I'm locked out now, and I don't know if the battery died or whatever, but you can take the little bitty key and unlock the driver's door, but that does me no good because the door handle does not work. So I'm locked out of my car again on top of that.
Oh, no. That's awful.
I don't mean to laugh at Jim's pain, but I've been there.
Yeah. It's been a great weekend, people.
Oh, man. Yes, I guess Indiana was actually good on Saturday, man. That was
they were.
That was wild.
42 points in the second half, and Wisconsin only scored 45 for the game. That was
wow, that's right.
Might have been their best. Might have been their best half performance of the season.
I'd agree. I mean, I didn't see the first half. I watched the second.
You missed absolutely nothing in the first half.
Yeah, no, I saw. I got in and I was like, "Oh, it's 21-20." I tweeted out like, "I see this has been artistic today."
Yes,
like
it was something.
More just basketball is happening. I recorded it just so, in part because I thought I was going to watch it for to have a better handle on it for this. I didn't watch it at all. But yeah, no, that had to be horrible. I just saw the numbers and like they're both under 33%. Yeah, no, that's still big. They needed something. I mean, it doesn't save them or anything, but at least gets them started.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Once a week. That's right. It's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of the WOW Network.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio commentary here on this Monday, January 16th, halfway through January. That's good to know. Looking forward to March 1st, I'll tell you that. Did you get a chance to watch any NFL yesterday? I did not, but
I didn't much. I was bouncing around for travel reasons, obviously, to get out here. Got a good bit of the first half of Buffalo, Miami. Caught the tail end of that in the airport. Caught about most of the first half of Giants Vikings in the airport. Landed in Chicago about the time Giants Vikings ended. Had to sprint to the to get my connecting flight. It was the best airport sprint of my life. I just want to say it was leaving with running in a bubble jacket, carrying a briefcase. I was cooking, man. I was cooking.
You got to get one of those golf carts, man.
There you go.
I should have. No, I didn't have the. I ended up checking my bag. They made me check it. I wasn't happy about it, but I geeked it, man. I was serious. I mean, I was like, it was like this too. We even almost didn't knock anybody over. It was impressive. Anyway, so in that space, I missed the beginning of Bengals Ravens, but I got to Milwaukee in time. Sat down at the bar with about 3.5 minutes to go in that game. So I caught the tail end of that. But yeah, bits and pieces, and then obviously saw Sports Center and whatnot. But I mean, definitely a lot of interesting, really nothing but I think interesting results. I did not expect Buffalo Miami to be close, for one thing. So Buffalo must have really shown a lot of vulnerability in the second half for that one to get to be where it was. I think everybody thought the bubble might pop for Minnesota, and it did. But I I still expect them to win that game. But I mean, I was impressed by what I saw from the Giants, from how Daniel Jones was operating, how he's running the football. Saquon Barkley obviously made some big time plays, so I think the Giants are pretty viable, going forward. I don't think they, I don't think they beat the. Well, I don't think they beat the Niners next week, but it could be a game. And wait, no, am I wrong? Are they going to be playing? They're set up to play Philly, right? They're playing Philly either way. That's right.
Yeah, the Giants are playing in Philadelphia. Yeah,
that's right. My fault. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they beat Philly, but I think they showed out pretty well. And I think I still think Cincinnati's terrific. Obviously they get really, really lucky in that game. I mean, they only win it because they cause a fumble at the 1 and get a 99-yard run out of it. But I think that team's obviously got a really good shot, and you get a Bills Bengals. You can't use the term rematch, but you actually get to see that game presumably now. And I think that's going to be a really good football game. So no, it's been a really interesting weekend for sure. And has a chance to be a really interesting playoffs. I mean, I don't think you see anybody as a runaway favorite here. I think that you see at least a bunch of teams that can win it. I mean, obviously the Jacksonville comeback was remarkable on Saturday evening. And I mean, look at the AFC playoffs. I mean, you've got 4 quarterbacks that have a chance to be generational. Yeah. I mean, you got Mahomes versus Lawrence, and then Allen versus Burrow. That's got a chance to be just terrific set of quarterback matchups. Tell you how tough the AFC is going to be going forward, just with the quarterback talent that's in that league right now.
We could talk a lot about the
quarterbacks
NFL.
Too. Remember, we talked about this slide a bit, but these are all young guys who are playing in big time games.
Well. And but see, there were 4 of the 5 NFL playoff games that were decided by one possession. And remember last year, all those games were really good. It was one of the best NFL playoffs I remember. But my big question is, when you were running through the airport, did you use the moving sidewalk and I feel like you would be no?
There were no moving sidewalks, man. There were no moving sidewalks.
I thought you were going to say, did you use the O.J. Simpson move?
I didn't have to stiff arm anybody, no. But it was a straight, just one of those. I ran around pillars, I used the pillar as a blocker a few times.
There you go. What was the time crunch? Hold on. How much time did you have to get from? I'm sorry, everybody. We can talk about the NFL. I'm more interested in how Dustin got from point A to point B, and how he was able to navigate in this time crunch.
So boarding time was 6:52. I was still on the other plane at 6:52 until about I think I got off the plane at 7. So I think I think they kept it open for me. So it probably wasn't as impressive. But and there was several others. For some reason, we just spent a lot of time on the tarmac in Chicago or in Indianapolis. I don't know why. But we landed, I think, 20 minutes after we were supposed to land. And so by the time we got off the plane, it was something like 7:00, and I think plane was due to take off at I want to say 7:15 or maybe 7:18, 7:20 local, and I'm still on the plane at 7. And so I had to get from gate H18 to gate G18. So that was a trip. There was not, and so I just booked it, and it was just, again, got the bubble jacket on, and a sweat on top of a sweater. I busted my strap, my laptop a while back, so I'm carrying it like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, just and it's O'Hare, so it's not like there was a clean slate of nothing there. I mean, it was humans all the way around, so just had to do one of these, just straight bobbing and weaving. Had to take a breath when I got to the gate because I was.
It's a glamorous job. Don't forget about that.
It is a glamorous job. Yeah, it was something else. So.
Put some of TJ McConnell's drive moves to the test in the airport.
It was exactly that. I was thinking of TJ while I was doing it. It was how would TJ do with the ball in his hand? And but he does that every night and still handles the ball. And I don't have that capability. So we connect the dots there.
Indiana looking good, back on the winning ways on the college basketball floor. Mm-hmm. Of course, the women, they disposed of Wisconsin 93-56. But the men, 63-45, a great defensive effort. They something they had not been doing here of late, playing defense or much offense, to be honest with you. Well, they scored a lot of points. That's not quite true. but this was they just had a completely different look to them in that game.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think they talked a few times on the broadcast about, apparently, Woodson really practiced them hard, I think, on Friday, I guess, and really got after them. And it showed, and apparently they needed it. I think obviously one thing that you get into at this stage of the game is, coaches keep shortening practices, and there's reasons for that because the games come, fast and furious. You only have a couple of days to get ready, and they tend not to put them in any more of a grinder, but just something need to get right with these guys. Obviously, I mean, you did not expect that there were so many flaws this team has that I don't think you expected coming into the season. I mean, there were ones that they're a better shooting team than I think we thought. They're not. They're still not a great 3-point shooting team. Obviously, they go 1 of 8. But that's less of a problem than you would think. You didn't think defense was going to be this big of a problem, and it's a huge problem. And there's a lot of guys that I think we thought were going to be able to produce, especially if they were thrust into bigger roles that had not until recently. I mean, I think Jordan Geronimo's resurgence has been so big. Because I just never thought that was going to be an issue when Race got hurt. It was just like, okay, just slot Jordan Geronimo in there. We've seen what he can do the last 2 years. Just how many minutes he's gotten and how many big nights he's had. Where you think, well, wow, Jordan Geronimo's doing crazy things. We spent half this offseason saying, okay, well, is he going to be a 3? Does he have to start? I mean, do you have to make sure he gets on the floor? And this year it's been like, do you need to give him any more minutes at all? And it's just like, well, how did we get here? How is that even a possibility for the just potential and raw ability this guy has? And so finally, the last 2 games, him back to being him, and doing it obviously in greater minutes with Race out, and seeing just again how productive he can be just as a per minute rebounder. I mean, the guy just gets up. I mean, he is he's not the same type of stalwart, defend you one-on-one defender that Thompson is, but he's just such a good shot blocker, rebounder, does so many athletic things, gets into spaces that you don't expect to get. And so having that guy back, that version of Jordan Geronimo back is such a huge deal. I mean, it's weird to say, okay, he didn't go anywhere, he didn't get hurt, but he just wasn't that same productive level. And it's just like, okay, well, that's the Jordan Geronimo I know right there. Hood-Schifino's been tremendous. Obviously, I mean, that mid-range jumper just taking them so far right now. The fact that they've got an option there's something, to get them some outside shots, or just a guy that can create his own and score wherever he gets stopped is such a huge deal. It makes him so viable on pick and roll. Again, he's doing it's similar stuff to what Johnson was doing at the end of last year. It's that ability to, if you're running high pick and roll with Trace, be able to pull up and score wherever you get cut off. Have that option, whether it's beyond the 3-point arc, whether it's like around that little right elbow there, or get all the way to the rim. Hood-Schifino can do any of that, and that's a huge deal. But yeah, no, like you said, I mean, just collectively how well they defended. It obviously helps that Wisconsin was playing without Wall. That's a huge loss for them. They're not the same team without him, but to be able to be right and blow up everything Wisconsin does, all that swing stuff, all those backdoors, all that, intricate stuff, it requires a lot of just team defensive potential. It's not as much, manning up and taking your one guy. It's getting in the system and blowing it up. And they did a fantastic job of that, as good as I've seen an Indiana team do. They've been beat by that so many times. I've seen great Indiana teams, just leveled by what Wisconsin does, and that team really did a good job of stepping up.
And I think what's interesting too, you brought up the play of Jordan Geronimo. You go back to that Iowa game after Race Thompson went out, and a lot of times in that game, I thought he looked lost. Like he looked like he didn't know where he was supposed to be, especially on the offensive end. He cost them some big possessions in that game, and then to turn around a couple games later and to do what he did, 12 points, 11 rebounds. You hope he figured something out. You hope he found some mojo there. Maybe he's got some confidence. Jim talked earlier, it sounded like Mike Woodson maybe challenged him a little bit heading into this game against Wisconsin. I mean, I think his athleticism can be a true asset to them if he's comfortable and confident in what he's doing. But if he's got to play like he did against Wisconsin. You can't have more of those Iowa-type performances. And he doesn't have to post a double-double every game, but I think if he can be effective on the glass, and I think if he can get into what he does defensively, I think Indiana's still got a really good shot at, like I said, we talked to Don Fischer. I don't know about winning the Big Ten, but taking that next step up into potentially the top 4 or 5, which when you finished 9th the past couple of years, that's a significant step.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for this team, the goal right now is to not be a bubble team. I think that's the goal. And I think that's a viable goal, is to not get to Chicago. I think that's where the Big Ten tournament is. Don't get to Chicago unsure. Be certain. I think that's viable. Are they a Final Four team now? No. Are they going for a top 3 seed in the tournament? No. But they got to get in, get in as a 5, get in as a 6, get in as something that tells you you're going to have, you can go to Chicago, get dusted, and be fine. And I think that's where they need to be. But yeah, no, Geronimo, I mean, you've seen moments in the past where he looks a little bit lost. I mean, I think it's tough to kind of pinpoint just what that's been. But I think one thing that always struck me about him watching him is he could be wrong and then immediately make himself right. He could guess wrong in terms of where he was supposed to be or just not process it right, but because he's got so much athleticism. Yeah. And he plays with a lot of energy. Like that it's not just it's desire too, but like he might be shaky on the first move he makes. We're like, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be there? Whatever. Oh shoot, I'm wrong. Okay, I'll get right back. Okay, I can get right over there and I can get in that guy's way wherever he's trying to go or whatever. Or offensively, I could take a wrong step, but I can get right. Or I can just by raw energy run someplace, find some space and dunk on somebody, even if I'm not exactly where the play says I'm supposed to be, or I take a second to get to the screen or whatever. He's going to get there because he is athletic enough, fast enough, and cares enough to get right after he makes the initial wrong step. And it seems like he's been more lost this year, and it's odd. I think it's just that's just one of those things with this group. I mean, obviously I haven't been paying as close of attention because I haven't been on the beat. But it's just like there are so many storylines that are weird to me. I did not expect. I had a sense of what I thought this team was going to be when I moved over to Pacers and thought, okay, this is where these guys are going to go, and who's going to be good and who's not, and who's going to take a while. I mean, and Geronimo was just one of those. I just thought, okay, for years, all of last season, you're thinking, man, like Geronimo needs to get on the floor, but there's nothing they could do about it because Thompson's playing too well. Like you can't, and there were some people that were like, well, Geronimo's got the higher ceiling because he's got more athleticism. But you're like, man, Race does so many little things well. Like you don't know how much you would lose if you flipped him back there. And now you see it. And there were even some people at the beginning of this season. They're like, no, it's time to put Race out to pasture and say, okay, you're a 6-year guy, move on. You don't have what this kid's got. You got to give this kid a chance because he's got an NBA. He's got NBA athleticism. Right. I don't know if he's not an NBA player right now. He's got to do a lot more things to prove it, but he's got NBA level athleticism. He does leaping wise, everything like that. What you see guys do up here. And so, you're thinking, okay, he's got to get more of these opportunities, but he's gotten more and he hasn't been producing. So finally you're seeing the translation of what we thought he would be in these positions these last 2 games, and you haven't seen it before. The other guy that still surprises me that he's struggling is Renew. He looks like he's starting to find it. But man, I thought he was way ahead of the game, when I left. I thought he was way ahead of the game. I thought it was, this dude is just going to be stuck behind, Race and Trace and Jordan. But, next year, man, look out, and you're going to see it in all the flashes he's going to get. And he's seen a little bit lost as well. But I think he's starting to find it too. And if you get those 2 guys really, really rocking, I mean, that's a really, really good front court, but they haven't been nearly as good as I thought they were going to be so far.
Well, Trey Galloway just needs a little confidence to start continuing to add a little bit more offense to this team, and Bates needs some consistency. That's a difference between this team being elite. I mean, they could be up there, but for that they would have to have this. Cop just needs a TikTok deal. I mean, that's after 2 years of wondering where he is. It's time. It's time to stop worrying about him.
Well, I mean, so I'm confused by Kopp a little bit. In the sense,
I think he's much more concerned with working on his tan, his golf game, and his video deals.
Oh, geez.
This is
okay. We went there. All right.
Well, he said it. I asked him back at the beginning of the year, what did you do to work on your game? It's worked on my tan and I worked on my golf game. Middle.
Well, he did
the
say
middle
that,
aspect.
but isn't he shooting 47% from three?
Yes, but when you only shoot 2 times a game,
Was that?
what is that? How many shots does he put up? He doesn't put up a shot, especially in the last several games. How many shots per game has he averaged?
Yeah, but how much is that him? Like, I mean, like ultimately, when you got a guy that's shooting 47% from three, we've known.
In my opinion, if a shooter wants the ball, they're going to put a shot up. If you really want to get shots up,
but here comes the issue though, because then if you want him to shoot more, and which I don't necessarily disagree with, but then if he's taking bad shots, then people are going to rip him for that.
But don't take bad shots.
Better question.
Okay.
Better question. Well, I mean, so you guys are seeing them more. What kind of gravity does he have? Right, and by that I mean like that number is huge. Like his percentage shooting wise is not
right.
It's big. So are guys clung to him? Is that what's happening?
Both of his shots yesterday came at the end of the game when I think the game was in hand.
No, I know. I'm saying when you watch a play, when you watch when you watch how he's defended right now, what's that look like? I mean, are guys up in his grill all game saying Miller Kopp's not getting a three on me because that's the only guy I'm afraid of shooting the basketball? And
I'm not saying that.
Out of the play. Is that what it looks like or not?
I'm not saying that.
Like, I mean, like if he gets any space, like when a guy's shooting 47% from three, you get him shots. Like, and that's not like, you know, that's not on the shooter. That's on the coach. That's on the player.
I don't think he works hard enough though to get free for shots.
This is
really?
See, I don't. I'm gonna have to go back and pay closer attention to this because now I'm intrigued by this. Here's the thing that I take away from this. It's because to me, I still, even when Indiana plays well, I still don't usually know what the objective of the offense is.
That's
fair. I think it's
get
more
the ball
of
to Trace Jackson Davis first and foremost.
Well, I understand that, but then but I've talked about on this show multiple times. It seems like when that's not the option, they look lost. Like they don't know what the hell they're doing. So is Miller Kopp just running around trying to get free? Are they setting screens for him? Like it doesn't, when I watch a game and I'm not paying close attention to that specifically, but now I'm going to, are they trying to set him up for shots? I think throughout the course of a game, they run a few plays for him, but I don't necessarily think that they're like, we got to get the ball to Miller Kopp.
And when it starts, when we've seen it before, so like last year, and I'm, you know, again, I'm not seeing enough, but like the change in mood last year was when X and, you know, Trace went to Mike and said, we got to run pick and roll more. Like we have to. And that was like, and Mike Woodson had to be more ready for that. And he was like, okay, I'm ready for you guys to do this. And when that happened, there were more shots and X made a point. I got to say this, like Xavier Johnson made a point to get Miller Kopp the ball. And whenever he gave Miller Kopp the ball and Miller Kopp was open, X practically shamed him if he missed shots. Like, cause he would run down the court like three, you know, like he's got it. And then when like, if Miller would miss, X would look at him like he kicked his puppy. Like, I can't believe I gifted you this. I handed you this on a silver platter and you missed. And it was so blatant. And he did not it was like public shaming. It really was. And obviously Jalen Hood-Schifino is not going to do that as a freshman. He's also just not X. Like X is bold enough to do that to you know, and then kind of chide him in the press conference. Like I gifted that to Miller and then but he would give it back. He would go back to him. I mean, X and Miller had a connection and Miller, X forced that to happen. X was like, I'm getting Miller a couple shots a game, at least in transition. But like, that wasn't the same when, you know, like when it's throw it in the block and try to get a double. Well, guess what? No team's doubling off Miller. You know, and that's what at the end of last year, as you saw, really the middle of last year. Like early on, they were hitting some threes. They were getting some T-ball threes. We're back. Okay. And now they're not doubling off any. They're not going to double off Miller Kopp. He's the only guy that you're afraid of. So you can bring a double off of anybody else when you throw it in the post. And so like that's what I'm wondering. And I haven't watched it close enough. And like the point being, I mean, like Jim might be totally right. Like this critique of Miller Kopp not running around enough might be totally correct. Or maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying if that's the same issue, if it's that, you know, basically if you're playing too much through the post with Trace and you're hoping that a double is going to get you a look, then that double is never coming off of Miller Kopp. It's coming off of somebody else. And you got at any given point in time, you got a two guard who you're kind of afraid of. Tamar Bates is going to beat you sometimes. Trey Galloway, you're not afraid of at all. Jalen Trevino, obviously you got your defender on the ball. But, Jordan Geronimo, I mean, like, obviously we've seen him make threes in the past, but I mean, he's at what, 3 of 14, somewhere in that range. Like if you're an opposing defense, like, Miller Kopp is the one guy that you will not double down off of. So, like, if that's your hope of springing Miller Kopp for a three, it's not coming that way. You're not getting it out of a post double. You got to get something else if that's going to be a priority. And so your point guard's got, like, your coach has to make it a priority. Your point guard has to make it a priority. Obviously, there's a responsibility on behalf of Miller Kopp. I'm not going to. I cannot speak to his failure to meet that responsibility if he has one, if he does not. If you're a shooter, you should run around a little bit more. But Miller Kopp is not the fastest human being in the world. He is not, he is not Steph Curry. This is not a guy that can run laps around screens and lose his defender 15 times, or cross him up off the bounce and put him in put him on the floor. Like, that's not Miller Kopp's. It's not his game. I mean, he seems like he's in perfectly fine shape to me as far as ability, but he's just not he's a little bit stiff, from a running standpoint, but gets the clean, and knocks down a clean one. Could have, I think, a little bit more confidence to shoot it in front of people. He's 6'7". You're going to be running around with somebody that you should be able to shoot over, even if he's in your face. And I don't know that you've necessarily seen him have the confidence to do that in the past. But like I said, I don't know what he's doing, but if I presume if he's got a 47.7 number in that percentage, column, that teams are saying, we're not leaving that guy. Okay, circle, scouting report. Hey guys, this guy's shooting 47.7% from three. Whoever's guarding him, don't leave him. Just shooter, period. Don't leave him. Don't double. You are out of the double game. Don't switch, don't double, don't anything. Whoever's on this guy, just run with him, and that's your job today. So I presume that has some effect on what's happening there.
You may be exactly right. I'll have to wait till I get my cable back to go back and watch. What's up next for you, man? I know you're on the road.
2:30 tip today, 2:30 Eastern, out here in Milwaukee. The Pacers get the Bucks, and apparently Giannis was listed as probable in the injury report. So if they got Giannis, that's a tough deal, especially if they don't have Turner. Yeah. So we'll see. Now, if they do have Turner, they got a crack at it. And they get Oklahoma City on Wednesday, Denver on Friday, Phoenix on Saturday. I'll be at every single one of those. So doing this whole trip. We'll see how it goes. Tyrese Halliburton's supposed to be out for all of this unless he makes a pretty quick recovery. He does look good walking around. He's not on crutches anymore. We can report that, I think. But he's, they said they'd reevaluate in 2 weeks, and obviously you're seeing the difference with him out. But we'll see what it looks like. I mean, I presume they will get that. Again, back spasms is tricky. You don't know when it's how long it's going to be a problem. But we'll see if and when they get Turner back on this trip and how they kind of absorb him back into this and how they can look. It's a critical period. They're obviously still in that very much in playoff range, and if they could just kind of hang tight here and get Tyrese back out on the floor, obviously they got a chance to keep making a run. And it's been still been a really impressive thing. It was they won 8 out of 10 prior to that Knicks loss. Still in pretty good shape, but got to keep the boat steady as they play through this stretch of injuries.
I know the Pacers have like a 4-game homestand coming up. Is that after this game here?
Sounds right to me. I don't know. It's what city I'm in? Yeah, it's going to be.
I don't have internet, brother. I remember seeing it. So hopefully,
look. I got it open right now. It's close to that. They go Tuesday, January 24th, home against the Bulls. Wednesday on the road against the Magic. Friday home against the Bucks. Sunday on the road against Memphis. But then Lakers, Kings, Cavs in a row, second through the fifth. So they got a bunch of home games coming up. I mean, for whatever reason, they've got a bunch all told here. But yeah, so you got a little bit more on the road for this stretch. but got some interesting home games coming up. But February 2 through 5th, where they'll get the Lakers back, get to see them again. Get to see LeBron at Gainbridge, you would hope. Sacramento, I think, has been a really interesting one. Obviously, to see those two franchises since they had that trade, I think that really transformed both of them. Last February, it'll be close to a year to the year anniversary of that deal that sent Halliburton to Indiana and sent Sabonis to Sacramento. And then I'll get Cleveland. I think Cleveland, they've had some really interesting games with Cleveland so far. I think Cleveland is kind of that edge of that second tier of teams in the East right now. And the Pacers playing with them, I think, speaks well to where they stand.
Dustin Dopirak with the Indy Star. Can't thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, fellas. You guys have a good one.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Dustin Dopirak, make sure you give him a follow and be a subscriber to the Indy Star. Keep local papers alive. Dustin Schutte with me. We're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure you go to My Wow Network and sign up for the Wow Club. Start earning Wow awards today to great places like BB's Market or Southern Stone or Feast Market and Cellar or Metalworks Brewing Company and many others. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home,
Dustin turning his camera off.
I think he just went to do something. I think he just stepped out for a moment.
I'm in handcuffs. This is like being handcuffed.
I can tell. Yeah.
It looks like a shitty day outside. Is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty bleak here as well. So I agree with you.
Good word. Good usage. Great, good word. Bleak. Good word. So is my sound coming through okay?
It's about as good as it can.
Well, I mean, what does that mean?
It's just phone quality is about all I can say.
Phone quality?
I mean, is it bad though?
No, it's passable. It's passable. And Dustin,
because I wondered about taking. Does it sound the same right now as it does when I'm in front of the camera?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm in another room. I could do the show from a different room.
You could.
Maybe I will. Maybe we can put up a picture of me.
There we go. We can just guess when you're done talking.
You know what? We need some goofy pictures. You put up like, hey, I'm smiling, being goofy, or
there you go.
Sad.
Oh, Dustin, did you listen to that clip I sent you from the other night?
Did. Yes, I did.
Was that not ridiculous?
That was.
You probably didn't have any context of it, but it was
I did not have context, but it was still funny. But that's the stuff that.
What was it?
So on the afternoon show that I do at iHeart now, Nick, the host I work with, he pulled into a porn shop and didn't realize it. Not like he didn't go inside, but he pulled in the parking lot. Didn't know what it was, and somebody was there and recognized who he was and said, "You probably shouldn't be here." And then we went off on a little tangent about that, and I asked him if he didn't see the subtitles and the sign. The place was called Metro Station, and the subheading said "Theater, Peeps, and Novelties."
Well, my question would be why was he going there to begin with?
No, he pulled off to answer a phone call, and that's just the parking lot he ended up in. But anyway, here we go.
Oh my! Tell him I don't believe it.
Thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Ready to get the week started. NFL game tonight. Old man Brady. Potentially last NFL game?
Could be. Wouldn't that be something?
No one's talked about that, have they?
Well, I'm sure they have, but
isn't every game somebody's
because
potentially
I haven't
last
heard
NFL
anything
game.
about him retiring again, but
it's going to be
you
interesting.
never know. I mean, the fact that he's playing in the playoffs this year is a joke because they had a losing record.
Well, that entire division sucked. 8-9, like that division was bad. Bad as I've ever seen. And so here's the interesting thing about Tom Brady.
I bet he doesn't retire.
I don't think he will either. And there have been some rumblings. Now, I'm not the one reporting this. I've just heard through Twitter fear and rumor mill and all that stuff that there is potential that he could go back to New England. Now, I don't think that will happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if he went back to New England for one more season to just try to see if he could win one more. But it's going to be incredibly fascinating. The reason why is because those two teams played in the first week of the season, and Tampa Bay kicked Dallas's ass. Like it was 19-3 or something. It wasn't an aesthetically pleasing game, but Tampa Bay did go into AT&T Stadium and win. So it's going to be interesting. And like we said, 4 of the 5 games so far have been decided by one possession. So it's been awesome.
Let's see. You want to make sure to hit up the comments, even though I haven't been able to see them very well today. You know what? Kevin says Woody coached a great game. You know, Woody's been getting some grief, and I've given it to him a little bit as well. Indiana played very, very well that game. They responded. My only question would be, why is it taking this long? Why did it take that long to, reach up and grab somebody by the jersey or whatever it took? You challenged Jordan Geronimo, and I'm not saying he challenged him by grabbing him by the shirt and getting up in his face. I'm just saying this should have happened a long time ago because this was something that was already seen. But if this can be the response from here forth, well, this team has a good shot of salvaging a solid season.
I think
because if they don't, they were heading in a very bad trajectory. That changed that trajectory. They've got to maintain that, Dustin.
I think part of this is, look, we have both been pretty critical of Indiana, and we've acknowledged that, no Race Thompson, no Xavier Johnson, that does make a big difference. What I think can give fans more optimism based on what we saw in that Wisconsin game, and I know they were without Tyler Wall, but at the same time, it sometimes takes players a while to get the chemistry down, and they might have great chemistry in the locker room, but it's completely different when you're playing on the floor together. When it's 5 guys and you got to trust the other guys on the floor to be where they're supposed to be, especially on the defensive end. Now, again, I will be critical of the offense because, it's get the ball to Trace Jackson Davis, and then after that, I don't know what the plan B, C, D, E, I don't know what the next plan is. But on the defensive end, stuff you can control in every single game, I think it takes some time occasionally to get everybody on the same page. And you hope that maybe what we saw against Wisconsin on Saturday, that was them clicking and that was them getting on the same page. Like I told Don, I know Illinois has played better recently, but they've also gone through some struggles. They've not been as consistent as you'd like to see a team that was also projected to be at the top of the Big Ten. If you can go in there and you don't even necessarily have to win, but if you show that same defensive intensity and you make that a game, then I think you can say that this team maybe turned a corner. We'll find out.
Yeah, you go into Illinois. I don't care where road games in the Big Ten are tough. Illinois, yes, I said they struggled, but that doesn't mean they're bad. They've won 2 or 3 in a row. Yep. So, and they have talent. It's just like Indiana. They have talent.
Yes.
They have tons of talent. It just has not been working well together, especially when you bring in the injuries that they've had.
Yep.
they just did not respond well. No one stepped up. That was the problem. I think that they were so accustomed to letting the stars be the stars that the side players were too ineffective and did not have the ability to be effective yet until like I said, when he challenged Jordan Geronimo, well, he needs to challenge Miller Kopp. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm ripping on him. God, I am. 50-year guy, man. You've been around. You know how this is. Should be a leader. I see zero leadership qualities out of here. Zero. Just like I see on most of his stat lines. Zeros. Zeros, zeros, zeros. He doesn't rebound. He plays 30 minutes a game. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't get assists, and he doesn't score. He didn't even shoot. It's not like is he shutting their best player down? No,
he's not.
So I would like to see Caleb Banks. I agree with a couple of people. I'd rather see Caleb Banks in there.
So here's the thing I would say about when it comes to Miller Kopp. I don't know what they run for him.
You know what? Here's my opinion.
But okay, so this
if you
goes to
want the ball bad enough, you will get the ball. You will. I don't think you want the ball bad enough.
I do understand that. My counter to that, playing devil's advocate, is again, I don't know what the goal of the offense is. So does anybody on that team know what the goal of the offense is outside of get the ball to Trace Jackson Davis? And then if he gets a double team, he's going to pass.
Is to get it to. I'm definitely not saying the goal is to get it to Miller Kopp.
Right. But
he's definitely not a number one or a number two option in this. Trace Jackson Davis, number one. Jalen Hood-Schifino, number two, simply by fact of having the ball in his hand and the ability to either find somebody or get to the rim or just take a jump shot.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Tamar Bates doesn't have trouble finding shots. Whether he hits them or not, he's not having trouble finding shots. I mean, if you want the ball and want a shot, you're going to have the option if you work for that. I don't think he does that.
But those guys can create their own shots. Jalen Hood-Schifino can create his own shot. Tamar Bates can create his own shot. Miller Kopp can't do that. They've got to run plays for him. He's got to get open. Now, you might be right in the fact, and like I said, I have not watched him specifically that closely. So I'm going to pay attention to see what the offense looks like and what they're doing with him and how they're using him. Because I thought Dustin brought up a great point, but
which one? The fact that he's 6'7" and he's probably should be able to get up and over every defender that's on him.
True. Well, that's true, but I don't know if they're trying to. I don't know. They're going to have to run set plays for Miller Kopp to get shots. Is basically my point. And I don't know that they're doing that frequently enough to where he can shoot 8 to 10 times a game.
Yeah. So anyway, I was reading something, but, it's the Illinois game is going to be a very, very good litmus test for this team to follow up after the win over Wisconsin and how they did that. First of all, by playing hard. They've got to take that on the road.
Yes.
They have to take that intensity on the road. They have to take that desire to win on the road, the desire to guard on the road, and it has to remain there. First half, second half, you just have to stay on it. And that's something that this team has to – they've got to find within themselves, and that's the ability to just stay focused on playing hard.
I think they can. I mean, that's something you can control. So I think this is what I go back to when I talked about sometimes it takes teams a while to gel. I think that was a little bit of a surprise that it didn't when they suffered some that first game without was it Jalen Hood-Schifino they played without in that Rutgers game. There was you just didn't expect to see it look like that because this team was so experienced, because you expected these are guys who have been here for a while. Woody's in his second year. You expected it to look a little bit different, but it didn't. And now I think, knowing you've got to deal with some injuries, knowing you've got a new rotation, like I think that you can see this team take that defensive effort on the road. Now it's one of those things you got to see it to believe it. But I don't know. I just saw a completely different mentality from Indiana than I think we've seen, not maybe all season, but I think in some of those games where they were, I don't want to say outmatched, but in some of these games that they've played, they just didn't look like they had the same intensity level. I think that changed quite a bit on Saturday.
Well, if you look at the 5 starting positions, which didn't change much, you look at, all right, Xavier, is he better? Well, he's out right now, so he's hurt. So you can't really answer that. That's kind of a wash. Jalen Hood-Schifino, different position, but he's new. Is that position better? Absolutely yes. I'm going to put a yes besides that.
Yeah.
Now, though, the other 3 starters, the 4 out of 5 basically, are the same. Brace Thompson, was he better than last year? I think it was a wash. I think he was the same personally.
Yeah.
Is Trace Jackson Davis better than last year? I think it's a wash. I think he was the same player. It's not unless there's been improvement. Do you think he's better this year than he was last year?
No. I'm not saying I disagree with that.
And then you go forward again. Miller Kopp, yet another starter. Is he better? No, it's a wash.
Yeah.
So you've had improvement in one spot. So why is this team so much better all of a sudden?
Because of what we talked about. That's an interesting question about TJD. I feel like he's more dominant, but I don't know that he's better, if that makes sense.
I think he was great in the Wisconsin game. Now, if he plays like he did in that Wisconsin game, which he has done that before, but that's a dominant performance.
Yeah.
What do you have? 18 and 12.
He had 18 and 12. What? I'm mixing the games up here. He had 23 rebounds the other day, didn't he? Was that Northwestern?
Yes, but that was a game that there were ample opportunities for rebounds.
But still, you got to go up and. I mean, basically, I'm never gonna question Trace Jackson Davis's effort.
Well, I'm not questioning him. I'm
not saying. I'm
looking at this whole
are.
team. I'm like, so why people would think that there's this much better? You've got Miller Kopp, who is 0% better. Brace Thompson, who was maybe he was a tick better. I'm not sure, but he's not there right now. Trace Jackson Davis, I don't know that he's better. I think he was good last year and he's good this year.
I agree.
But I don't know how much better he is. He has not developed a shot, so he does not improve there. Xavier, I don't know if he was better or not with Jalen. We didn't really get a chance to see it, and he's hurt now. So, but the only position where they had definitely improved was in Jalen Hood-Schifino's position. So you're looking at 1 out of 5 positions that they really improved at.
Right.
And I don't think that that's enough to make this team a Final Four type team. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I agree.
And
I
now
agree with
that they're
everything
hurt,
you're saying. Yeah.
So, and now that they're hurt, that's other issues they have to deal with, and having guys to replace these guys and give that same effort and more importantly, the same production for them to achieve what they tried to or were wanting to achieve. And getting, they're going to get raced back sometime in February, but I don't know how much that's going to do for this team. If Jordan Geronimo, if he's playing well, getting raced back's not going to help him that much. Xavier, that's the one that's hurting them.
Yeah,
from a defensive standpoint, without question, he is the best on ball defender that they have, I think. But so that's where they are at right now. And my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. John's telling us we got to take a break so we can pick it up, but I don't disagree with anything you're saying. It's just an interesting question on the TJD thing because I think you're right. I don't think he's better than he was a year ago. I feel like he can assert his dominance more so this year than he did last year.
We've got to take a break, according to the boss. Of course, that's what we need to be doing anyway, listening to the boss man. Brought to you by our good friends from Cabello Restaurant, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington, where you can get the tastes and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana. Make sure you stop by. You can also check out some Metalworks Brewing Company beer as well. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Oh my God, not having information in front of me is killing me. I'm just having to completely. Well,
hold on one second.
BSing.
So to help you out a little bit, I've got two clips. I've got both the question you asked Mike Woodson and the questions you asked Trace and Geronimo, so you can discuss those answers that when we go over those. Also, because of the little technical problems with Don Fischer, we probably need to add a couple of extra minutes on at the end of the show just to make sure that that's enough to fill, if that makes sense.
Okay, and this is the last segment, correct?
Correct. So normally we would have about 10 minutes left. Let's maybe go 12 minutes just to make sure.
Tell me when to go to. I'm at 145 right now. So go to 157.
Oh, yeah, go to 150. Yeah, start wrapping up around 157. That's when I'll pop in. That'll be good.
All right, so we've got Mike Woodson times 2.
No, Mike Woodson is your question, and then your question for Geronimo and TJD.
All right.
So both
that was at one time, so that's easy.
Yeah, so you just do either one, and then you can discuss one of them, and then move on to the next one, discuss that one, and all will be well. Dustin, are you going to be able to stay all week or all this week because of your schedule?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Now, next week, it's going to be another cluster. I'm just going to warn you right now.
Do you know what next week is for you yet?
I do. I'll send you the I got it Saturday or Sunday. I'll send it to you.
George is upset. George is upset.
Still got a minute and a half. I'm curious if Mitchell's excited about the Taven Jackson thing or if he just is still angry about everything. I texted him a couple days ago, and he said he hates sports now again. So I don't know what's going on.
Not dramatic at all.
Because I asked him if he wanted to come on to a segment or something. He's like, I hate sports now.
He's been completely done on Twitter, too. The only time I've seen him tweet anything is one time he said, when are we playing golf? And I said, hopefully soon. And that was the end of that.
Plus, he's gearing up for a wedding here in a couple of months, isn't he?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
I don't know when that is, but I know it's in the early part of the year.
I think it's either spring or summer.
So I've already got 3 weddings I have to go to this year, and it's only January.
What I mean?
Like there's bound to be more. I'm just at that age where everyone's getting freaking married.
Yep. I have not been to a wedding in a long time.
All right, 15 seconds, folks.
With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday. Thanks a lot for joining us. January 16th, halfway through January. That's always a good sign. Love that, baby.
Getting closer to spring weather.
Hey, closer to March 1st. And even though it's not always warm on March 1st, I don't care. You're in the month of March. That's all that matters.
That's right.
Only 6 weeks away from that. we had the opportunity to speak with Mike Woodson, Trace Jackson Davis, and Jordan Geronimo after the game on Saturday. Indiana's big win over the Badgers. And for Indiana, it was a change in defense, and they really looked locked in, clicked. Everything clicked for them. And asked Mike Woodson what went into getting him to that point. Here's what he had to say.
Well, he looked comfortable, and as a coach, man, and when I'm challenging players, sometimes it makes them a little uneasy, and I get that. But at the end of the day, they got to understand that I'm in their corner. I need them to perform at a high level. So it ain't personal. It's coaching. It's what I call it. And I thought he was more relaxed tonight, and he did a lot of positive things on both ends of the floor, man. I just hope he can just grow from this game and continue to play that well.
He was talking about Jordan Geronimo specifically in having the game that he had in a double-double. I think he had 9 rebounds early in the second half, too. I mean, it was he was at it early and often. George Geronimo, along with Trace Jackson Davis, spoke with the media as well. And I asked Jordan about a game like this. Does this give him confidence to be able to play like this going forward? And with Trace having Jordan play like that, what it does for him, for the Indiana offense?
Having games like this, obviously helps my confidence a lot. You know what I mean? Like playing well like this just, helps me, what's the word? Scratch that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is having the games like this helps me because in the future, I have more confidence in my abilities and know I can make an impact on the floor and help my teammates get a W, which is what we're all trying to do. So
yeah, just building off of that and what he said, just continuing to build though. Obviously, in this league, you can lose 3 games in a row, but you can also win 3 games in a row. The Big Ten is the Big Ten, and every night is going to be a grind, and so we just got to build off of this. Wisconsin's a great team. We're going to play a great team tomorrow in Illinois, who's also had struggles and then found success recently, and so it's going to be a dogfight. It's on their home floor, and that's what we got to get ready for.
Jordan Geronimo just needs more minutes, more games like this because he just seems like a kid that just doesn't have that complete confidence yet, even though it's like more people have confidence in him than he does. It doesn't quite realize how good his abilities are maybe, but once you get that confidence to go along with the abilities that he does have, that's a difference maker in a player.
It would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in that conversation that Mike Woodson had with Jordan Geronimo because you can't be a completely different player, obviously, when you have confidence, and especially with his athleticism, with his versatility, with the way he can defend the floor, with the way he can impact the game. So I hope that was a turning point for Jordan Geronimo. I hope something finally clicked because I think he's a really talented player. I think he has the ability to come in and really help this Indiana team. And like you said, he can reflect now on that game. And was that Mike Woodson challenging him, saying, hey, you're better than you think you are. Stop reading what you see on social media. Stop reading what you see on Twitter and Instagram and taking that to heart and just go play your game. Or was it, we start to need something from you. We're going to need some production from you. Otherwise, we're going to start playing somebody else. I don't know what that conversation was like, but it certainly worked. And now you hope that having that experience, having that success, getting a double-double, doing things offensively and defensively, you hope that breeds some sort of confidence because this Indiana team, when he's on the floor, can be a lot different. They can be a lot better when he's on the floor doing positive things for this team.
Well, Jordan Geronimo is one of those players that you look at and you're like, man, if he can get it together, because you can see the abilities that he has,
right? Whether
it's the physical abilities, jumping, blocking, rebounding, but he can also shoot from outside. I'm not saying he's a Steph Curry, but he can shoot the ball and it looks smooth. It's all about confidence with this kid. He's probably this close from being one of the most well-rounded players on this team because of how athletic he is and how close that he is and could be. So he's a player that could make a gigantic difference for this team if just certain things go right for him.
Well, and I'm going to compare it to a player. If we got a lot of Pacers fans watching, you go back to the Pacers days in the early 2010s, and Roy Hibbert was one of the most dominant players at his position for a time being, but he struggled with confidence. And when he did not have the right mindset and he was not confident, he got taken completely out of his game. And it's eventually why he was no longer around in Indianapolis. I think that there are some similarities there, because I think when Jordan Geronimo realizes his potential and plays with confidence, he's a completely different player. But when he's questioning himself, when he doesn't have that confidence and that momentum, he does look lost on the floor. So again, I don't know. It was a great game for him. I don't know how much further to elaborate, other than you just hope that he can bottle that confidence and use it the remainder of this season. Because even with Race Thompson out, even with Xavier Johnson out, if that kid plays as well and as hard as he did against Wisconsin, Indiana's going to win a lot of basketball games.
Well, yes, and that is the determination of what's going to happen for the balance of this Big Ten season, and the balance and the fortunes of Indiana going forward for as far as the NCAA tournament. They had looked, like I said, they just did not look good. They were trending in a bad downward spiral, but they pulled themselves out of that with that performance on Saturday. But you got to follow that up. You've got to go on the road, and I don't want to say that it's a must-win, that you have to win in Illinois, but because of the numbers, they're 2-4 in the Big Ten Conference. You don't want to go to 2-5, of course. But at the same time, this is not a win you necessarily expected to get at the beginning of the season. If you looked at the schedule and said, "Oh, here's the win," I don't know that you would have expected to pull a win out there anyway. But it's not saying that you can't, especially if this team plays like it did Saturday. If they play with the confidence they played with and the moxie they played with, they're going to have a chance to win this game, which is something I would not have said a week ago. They would not have had a chance because they weren't playing with moxie. They weren't playing with toughness. They weren't playing with the determination to win. It was different on Saturday, and so this Saturday I see the difference. I'll say, all right, they've got a shot. And people, it cracks me up how people will jump on and comment and, well, you said this, you said. Guess what? Things change, people.
They do.
It changes from week to week. And so it's not like what I said 3 weeks ago stands for today. Stuff changes. Stuff happens. And that changes. So we'll see what Indiana can get done. But we got lots more to get done in between now and then. Tomorrow on the program, looking forward to having Mike DeCourcy from the Big Ten, and we'll talk to him more about that as well. Also, Chronic Hoosier will join us, and Dustin Schutte will be back as well. So very, very happy about that. I cannot thank everybody enough on the program today. Of course, Don Fischer, the man, the voice of the Hoosiers, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star as well. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines. And as I said, Dustin Schutte along for the ride as well. He'll be back tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.